Hi Saif, hi Alpana. How are you doing? Hello, can you hear me? Any questions from our previous session? No, I'm not able to hear you, Alpana. No, actually. In between there were some disturbances, but still I'm not able to hear you.
Okay.
Hello, Alpana, I think.
Hello.
Hi Saif.
Hey, how
Yeah,
are
you
you?
have any questions or doubts?
Uh, Not real actually.
Okay. So like in continuation to what we were doing last week. So we saw current selection list boxes, multi-box. So we saw current selection, list box, multi-box, statistic box. So today we'll look at a couple of other objects that are available. To begin with, we'll look at the search object. So the search object is basically a main object which will allow the users to search across the fields. So you can choose, suppose use this search object. There's nothing much like general presentations, or there's no much properties in it. Now if you use a search selection, a search object, and you select all fields, search in all fields, what happens is you get a search option like this, and when the user selects, right, or he wants to search anything, so he will be searching in all the fields. So whichever has a numeric field, in that field ClickView is going to search. Now these are more values, that's why it is collapsed. You can expand and do it. Now you don't know which field that 78 is in, right? Maybe you're searching for product ID, or maybe you're searching for order ID, or maybe you're searching for something else. So it's basically the moment the user types in something, all the fields get searched. So this is like a global search. This is always a best practice to have this in your every application. on your sheet, somewhere in the sheet, so that the users can immediately search and understand whatever they want to. They don't have to go to that particular list box or particular selection object or anything. They just have to key in that value 78. They'll be able to search everything. So similarly, if you go to the properties, you have list of fields. You can give a list of fields, but this is not really commonly used. But selected fields is commonly used. Selected fields is nothing but you can choose now particular fields. If you select all fields, if you select all fields, the search is in all the fields. If you select selected fields, the search will be in particular fields. Suppose I select this and I give product ID alone, right? When the user searches something, it will be only in the product ID, right? So there is no other field. So, but I think the product ID start with 7 series. So if I give 7, 8, it will be there, right? So like this, it will search only the product ID. So you can control which products to search. Now, while we do this, so you can select this, you can pick the tables or pick the fields, that's all. The search object ID is yes, 001. Under presentation, you have include excluded values similar to how we did this in list box, right? So highlights a search string, that's all. Collapse fields when exceed 10. So when there is a value more than 10, when there are more than 10 values, it will just collapse it and show that expansion option over there, plus mark. Appearance rounded. You can have appearance square or rounded. So square will give you this kind of appearance. Then text in search field. So you, instead of search, you can say search product ID. So that initial text that you're seeing, right, search, it will change the search product ID. You can give this kind of analysis, this kind of setup. That's the search object. And sorting the values within the fields, it is the fields themselves. So you can sort the fields based on A to Z or the number of hits, how many times that field has been selected as a list of on general tab. Otherwise, if there is a sort list or the fields, the sequence of the fields, that is what it is. Font, layout, caption is all the same that we have seen. That's the search bot object. Next object is a table box. A table box is a normal object. Okay, so it's like a straight. Suppose if you want a tabular report, right, without any aggregation, without anything, it just displays the data as is. When I say that, suppose I pick the sales order header data, I just push all the fields, right? I can pick and choose the fields, or I can just push all the fields. Or here I have got this. So it just listed out all the values of that particular field. It's like a record by record. It's like a tabular report, that's all. So this has no, suppose if you want to build any tabular report where you don't want to do any aggregation, you just want to show the record by record thing, you can use this. Now there are a couple of properties of this table box. Like you can choose the fields, count order, load order, text order. You can select that, rename these fields. We'll come back to this calculation condition later. When you have sort, over here you can sort it based on orders. So what happens is, see the sequence of the fields over here in the general tab, how you define them are different. So you define a sequence over here in a totally different, like you can use load order, count order or text order. The columns will be ordered in this method. So if you look at it, account, bill to address. But in sort, you don't have to really follow that order, but you can create your own order and say sort it by customer ID, right? Then you want to sort it by sales order ID or sales order ID. So the moment you promote, right, the data is going to get sorted first by customer ID, right? Now if for one customer ID there are 10 sales order ID, then those 10 sales order ID will be sorted, then the account number, then bill to address, then comment, then the sequence that I suggest over here. So either I can use the same general tab sequence over here or use the sort special sequence. Now with this special sequence, the columns will not be rearranged. Columns will still be there in their own places, respective positions that we described, but only the sorting will happen on this. So if I say OK, now technically it is sorted by customer ID. So if you see here, customer ID, over here a small triangle is there. So that triangle, like if the pointed end is on the top, it says it's ascending order, right? Then it would have sorted by the sales order, which is somewhere here. So here it is. So for this customer, it is sorted, see, 43739, it's here till here. Then again from here, it's changing to 43736. Because I think the customer ID is also changing from there. So if you look at it, 300, okay, here I think 2 customers, 4 records, 3 records for 1 customer. So within those 3 records, the sales order ID are sorted. Yeah, if you look at it, 43793, 5741. So you can define the order of the sort. Then comes the presentation. Under presentation, it's nothing but left align, center align, how you want it. Over here, you can omit rows which have wherever the data is null. Now, if you select this option, what will happen is even if one single cell is blank in a particular row, the entire row will be omitted. So you have to be careful while using this omit rows where field is null. So even a single field which is null or blank will be eliminated from the table. Now the most important or like interesting part is, for a lot of users say that this is the most interesting part, is drop down select. So enable drop down select. If you just select multiple fields and enable it, it will get enabled for all the fields, whatever fields you have selected. Now once you have done it, or here user gets a drop down for every field. So he does not have to go to a particular selection box, search for it and do it. He can just use this drop down and make the selection and do it. Wrap text height is basically the height of the text. So if you want more height, for header, for cell height is for text. If you want to create this kind of thing. Vertical labels allows you to just orient the labels vertically. If you're creating a table, sort indicator, suppress header row if you want to suppress the header row. There's no header row at all. But allow drag and drop selection. What happens is once you have given this, created this option, right? Users can themselves rearrange this column. How? They can just they can just drag a column, right? They can just drag it wherever they want to. For this, you'll have to enable this. If you disable this, the drag would have gone. Then there is a little styling that is available for these tables, so you can pick anything. So if you use this and give you light with stripes, so stripes for every one row. That's why you're seeing alternative gray and white. So if you say 2, it will use 2 rows for alternating gray and white. 3, it will use 3 rows for alternating gray and white. You can set the cell color transparency or border transparency. Number again is the same thing, though you can select a particular field and define the format that is required. Font, layout, caption remains the same thing. Now what this table box does is, like I said, if you don't, there is no ways that you can control the amount of records in this, right? What happens? Suppose your table, one of the tables has 1 million records, and you update all the fields in this table. What will happen is this table box will render or present all those 1 million records over here. So there is absolutely no method in a table box that you can control data. So you can't control data, only you can display. Only method that you can control data over here is, suppose a user selects 3. So that you can minimize, or you can kind of make sure that the data is less. Only and only when the territory ID is 3 or selected as one territory ID, then only you can reduce data. So based on selection, the data will be presented in the table box. If there are no selection, there's no method within the table box to control data. There is no aggregation. There is no method to control records, number of records that are displayed. Now in this scenario, it raises a challenge in a business case. What happens is, your users would be using, there will be 1 million records in the application. Suppose he doesn't select any territory. All the territories put together is 1 million records. It is fine, it is working in RAM, the RAM is sufficient enough to take that load, everything is fine. But the network speed will be pretty low. What will happen is, users will just go ahead, right click, say export, send to Excel. Now that send to Excel operation needs a lot of core, processing on the server, as well as it will utilize some amount of RAM, and of course it needs a good network speed, because that has to come through the browser, right, network speed. Now in that scenario, it will crash. So it will not crash the server, it will crash the browser for the user. That means it will get hanged and it won't really work out. It might come, so the report is definitely going to come, but that user experience will not be that great for this. So for that, what Click did was, now we have this table box, right? We have to force the user to make one selection, at least one territory ID selection, and then he should export it to Excel, right? Then the data will be reduced, it will be exported faster, and the user does not have to worry about anything. We don't have to worry about anything. For that, what we have to do is, we have to show this table or present all these values or the records only and only when one territory ID is selected, right? So what we do is,
condition.
If you go to properties, there's something called as calculation condition that I showed right earlier. This calculation condition is nothing but, you can put a calculation condition. If this is if it is false, right? If this condition is false, 1 is equal to 2 is false, the table is not going to show up. So no data is going to show. It's just going to show calculation condition unfulfilled. If I place this 1 is equal to 1, it will be yes, it will say true. So I'll have to control this calculation condition. What will be my calculation condition? Will be like, I'll have to go to the, we'll talk about these expressions later. I'll say get selected count. I'll say if get selected count of territory ID is equal to 1, then I want it 1, otherwise 0. So whenever one territory ID is selected, it will pass 1. Now 1 is nothing but true and 0 is nothing but false. That is what the condition calculation condition interprets. If the resultant value of any calculation, any expression is 1, it is true. If it is 0, it is false. So if it is see, over here the condition is clear. Only when territory ID is selected as 1, right? If there is only one territory ID selected, show it. If it is 0 selected, don't show it. If it is 1 or more selected, don't show it. So over here, it will say calculation condition unfulfilled. Now I'll select 1, it will show me the data. If I select 2, it will not show me the data. Now, this is how you can control or hide this. This is valid even for chart objects. So what happens is every time you move, right? So every time I move from sheet 1, so I'm in sheet copy of main sheet, I move to copy of main this second sheet, the charts refresh while you move into the sheet. So whenever you come into this, the objects refresh themselves. Now that refresh will take time if your calculation is very complex. Or in a table box, it is going to take time when there are 1 million records in the application. So you just put this condition so that the user understands he has to make one selection. Now with this calculation condition unfulfilled, user will not realize, right, what is the reason. So you have to give him the reason. What you can do is, in the same general tab, calculation condition, you have this error messages. You can go here. You can pick the or here these are the standard messages that will get displayed. So you can pick the calculation condition unfulfilled message. You can write a custom message. Please select select one territory ID. Oh, I shouldn't have. So what happens is when I say, the moment I say apply to all, it will go ahead and apply to all the objects, whichever object, wherever error messages. I should not do that. Basically, this table, I'm just applying it for this table. I just say OK, apply. So it says please select one territory ID. So the user knows that okay, he has to select one territory ID. He'll select, the data is going to come. More than one, please select one territory ID. This is one important method to control how your users can see. Users will not really know, okay, the system is slow, the internet will be slow, or it might not work out. All they'll know is go ahead, just export, right? So you as a developer, you can understand how many records are there in your application and define it and control it.
I have a question. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now that's the only one dimension we're talking about. So you just have to keep on creating. You have to create much more complicated expression if you want to add more than one dimension in the condition. So you're
right,
not just
right.
by territory ID, right?
Right. Yeah, you can go ahead. No, I mean, it's like the normal if condition, right? If territory ID is 1 and get selected,
this one, and then okay.
Yeah. Get selected customer
the other
ID.
one is -1, so yeah.
Oh yeah, ship
Okay.
method ID.
So there's the multiple condition you can add. Or is this the way
Exactly.
to? Is this the way to? Is this the only way to provide a drill-through report? What I mean is, let's say we have a graph, or pivot table. I'm not sure it's a table. Let's say, okay, I want to get details of transactions for this particular number. So I want the user to be able to click or double click. I don't know if that's how it works in Excel. You know how Excel pivot table works? There's a
Right.
data source, and then you double click and it goes through, and then it'll bring up another worksheet and with details of transactions. Can I replicate that kind of process? So this is the way. It looks like a table box is the way to do it. To me, it looks like
Yeah.
it's right.
Right. So what happens is table box displays all the list. So
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take out this condition for here now. Table box lists all the details like how you told, right?
Yeah.
After the, how whatever data is there. Now if you have another pivot table, suppose they select a pivot table. We'll do that when we come to the pivot. So when they select a particular value, the list box is going to display the data for that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to have a pivot table and a table box. This is a table box.
Okay. So the problem is, let's say we have a multiple dimensions. Like let's say sometimes the people will select by territory, sometimes sales type, sometimes business profile, focus level, the many different types, and they want to actually look at only that transactions when they read through. Does it make sense? That means.
No, I didn't understand. Sorry.
Okay. So now, how do I say? Because this is no. I think it's fine. So you're saying, because the number of row now in the table box, we always bring the entire row. So I guess all I have to do is then, because there's a report which has multiple dimensions to filter through the data, all right? Therefore, if I want, I can just limit only select a few dimension only instead of entire dimension and put in the condition that they will always see that much amount of data. That's how it was. So sorry, I think I'm talking to myself. So this is a way to give the drill-through report, kind of drill-through report, table box. If I, let's say if in the main page there is let's say there is a graph, and okay, I have this bar. It's telling me sales value 10,000. I want to click the bar, double click the bar, and jump into this worksheet and show the actual details of transactions.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking.
That kind of transformation will not happen in ClickView. But you can click on that bar. So
Yes.
you have a chart in the main sheet. Or in the main sheet, you can like suppose if this territory ID is the bar. So I just clicked here too. And I can go to the sheet 5 and see the details of it.
And just detail like that.
Yeah, I can move to the sheet. So the user will have to move to the sheet and look at the sheet 5 if he wants the details for that particular bar.
Okay. Also, if there's no like macro or something to jump into that worksheet or something.
I would
show up.
I would suggest don't do that, because what happens is macros are a little not that great supported in the newer latest versions. So don't get into the macro part of it, and try to keep it as simple as possible. So I'll say it to you one second. So
yeah. So make it simple. Try to stay away from the macro or what kind of script. I don't know what we have.
Yeah. I think the Excel there is flexibility to do that, but that's not how it has to be done. So suppose your bar, like you're seeing the bars over here. So over here you're seeing territory 4. So you select here, and the user can move over here and see this. Or else you can put this here. So you can have this sheet over here, right? You can have this.
So if I want to have multiple drill-through reports, then I should be creating like a few more tabs with the different types of each the table box in each tab, each drill-through tab, with the different columns.
You don't have to do that. So you can do that in the same table. Now what happens is, suppose you have this chart, okay?
Yeah.
charge will come back to this. With this will, one second, this is, okay, this will name this as detail. Okay. Yeah. First, you are okay with the table box, right? So the table box and the condition that we are done. We'll see a new object which will help you understand how to place these. So there is an object called container object. A container object.
Yeah.
Now we came, we came
I told
across
this
these
before,
things in
Mm.
ClickView. What happened was this condition, right? One chart over here and details in another tab was a challenging part, and placing these files in these objects into the same sheet also was challenging. So ClickView brought in container object. So you can just drag this object and drop
put
it
them both
within
inside
this.
and just click and then change it to see the, okay. Yeah.
So what container object does is, it's like a placeholder. So you can just put this container object over here and make it as big as possible. And within the container, you can have as many as objects. So I have order and details. You can have multiple. You can have 10, 15 objects within it. Different charts, different details. Now what happens is, suppose if they want the bar, they see the bar. If they want the details, go to the details. So at the same place, you get both the charts instead of having like struggling to rearrange them or do that anything. So for a container object, there are a couple of properties. When you click on the chart and go to the properties, it will go to the chart properties. If you click on this empty space or the caption of the container object, or over here, it will take you to the container object properties. So what container object does is, there is no restriction that it is only for chart or table box. You can put any object. So when I say any object, a list box, a text object, a current selection box, anything you can put. So that's one of the reasons that you see all the existing objects in the application. That means these are all the existing objects. Territory ID, list boxes, current selection, everything. So you can pick this, add it over here. When you say apply, you will get this territory ID. So it will look something like this. Now you can go to the properties of this, and on the presentation tab, you can go to, there are a couple of methods. One is single object. Single object, you will see it like this. You can select a grid mode to it. Grid mode is just gonna present side by side. Right? It's gonna rearrange the objects side by side and resize them accordingly. Or you can go to, I think single object is something that I often use. The tabs are on the left, you can put them on the top. So that this becomes like more elegant. The order, details, territory. So you can deal with it however you want to. Or tabs on bottom, drop down, order, flip through the report. Font layout caption remains the same for the container object. So this is one of the interesting objects. It's like a placeholder. It will help you out to control your objects as to place them appropriately wherever you want in the application. So in the same page, you can have 10 different reports or charts or graphs placed within a container.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, now we are able to hear Alpana.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question. Like when I used to work on that, I was like, there used to be a small table kind of thing, and on that, the heading bar is there. No, on that, if I click, we can select what kind of like whether it is SKU level details you want, or I want at the product level or at the sales level. That kind I used to get. So I think you got my point.
Okay, okay. No, that is not this. That is the cyclic and drill down. Yes, yes. Those are
Yeah,
the
drill down
cyclic
one,
and
yeah.
drill down objects. That we'll see when we are doing the charts. Though. Now that we'll see while we are doing the chart objects. No,
Okay.
that's within the chart object. So
Okay.
we'll do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I
thought
have one
it's-
more. Yeah. I have one more question. So, is it click view? If you look at like pivot table, for example, in Excel, as an example, you can actually the user can drag and drop and then create their own report. Click view, you can't do that, right? You cannot provide. As you can see, all these selections, all dimensions has to be presented for users. Not giving you cannot possibly give entire list of dimension, right? So, and so what you do is you just have to present whatever is relevant only for that application, and to limit the limit available dimensions, and then select through these dimension only. Or can we add?
Right.
Can we allow add? Okay, now we have only few, right? There are 5, 6 or something. Can we have users to be able to add more dimensions? So
Yeah,
they
it
can
depends on
actually
how
drag
you're-
and drop. Yeah. Are we going to cover
Yeah,
that kind of security or that kind of how, because my users are more interested in being able to do themselves. And some users was told what to do, but some users want to have more flexibility because they're used to it. Used to, the that of environment. They won't be able to actually create their own and like select dimension. Well, now this graph is limited for dimension we choose for them, but I want them to choose dimension as well, right? Because now on the row, horizontal is territorial ID, right? But I want them to choose different dimension for the horizontal, for example.
Right. For that you can have that's what Alpana was pointing out. So you have something called a cyclic and drill down. That will do that. So that should resolve most of your requirements. So that we'll be doing it in the charts section. So I'll show that to you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. And can you do the entire selection as well? Let them choose the field they want to see, or add in table box, for example. From there, yeah, can we let the users to select or hide, or now the list of the columns are predefined at this stage, right? Can we ask?
Right.
Can we let them do it?
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, there's no direct option over here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay. While we do this, the next chart object is basically we look at the input box. Now we saw how to declare variables in the script, right? So you use set or let statement, declare a couple of variables in the script. Now those script variables will be displayed here in the under settings variable. Now what the challenge is, the variables that you declared were in the data model. If you don't declare it again in the application model, right, it won't be transferred. So from the data model, only the data model is being transferred. The script or the variables will not get transferred. So over here, our variables are blank. So there is no variable. Now you can go back in the script and write it in the script for this app model after the binary load, whatever variables you want. Once you have done that, you can come to settings, under variable overview, you will have all the list of variables. With this, you can add, plus you can also add the new variable. So you have the add option over here. You can go ahead and add. So you can say v. For all the variables, like I said, best practice, always append a small v for it. So say v first number, second number, So you can add as many as variables you want to. You can define the values over here. Right? You can select it in the bottom part. First you have to add, then select the variable. In the bottom part, define what value you want to pass. So that's why the value is being passed as 4. Territory 5. Test 5, I passed it. So I say OK. Now my variables are created. I can use these variables. So we'll first look at the input box. Now in ClickView is like just a solution where people can read data from database, present the reports as is. ClickView can't write back to the database, or ClickView can't be edited. I mean is you can't edit any data in ClickView. You can't do anything. But there is a small option in ClickView where user can input something and look at, I mean, using that variable or value, you can manipulate few calculations in ClickView. What are those? We'll see that. So that is done through an input box. So you use this input box. Select the variable that you want to input. So I'll use this first. Or you can, only in the input object, right? No other object will allow you to do this. It will allow, this object will allow you to create a new variable. Suppose I have not declared any variable over there. So I can say v last number as a variable. So v last number will be declared as a variable. Now these two will be created as variable. I can declare, I can label them as something else, but right now I will leave it as it. I say OK. So users will get the option to enter some numbers like over here. So v first NP, right? The user can come down, say 34, enter, last 23, enter. Now if you go to the variable overview, you will see these values passed to those variables, right? I had kept the variables blank, right? But the moment the user updated, the values are passed to these variables, and now I can use these variables anywhere across my calculations and manipulate however I want to. Right? So this is how I can control it. This is one of the methods to update or insert data into ClickView. Like input data, numbers in data into ClickView and manipulate it based on the inputs. Right, under presentation there is nothing much, how it is background color, this thing. Now the most interesting part is, now once you give an input option to the user will input left, right, center, right? So he will not bother whether he is inputting numbers or text or a million. He'll just input the numbers. So to control that quality, right? So you have this constraints, which you can constrain, restrict a user to update a particular kind of number. So if no constraint, you can update anything. It's a standard number, positive integer, positive number, single character, it will control. So if I update number over here for first number and say I try to update text, it won't take. It's not taking. Last number is not restricted. If I update, it takes the text. Right? So I can control how I want to, what values or what kind of data I want a user to update. Custom, I can say, okay, what is number of or whatever I want to update. Then predefined values. Now under predefined values, I have something called as value list. Right? I can use a particular value list. First option is no value list. Second is list. I can give the recent value. Suppose the user has selected like keyed in 10 different values. I can give him that or that last 10 values used as values itself. And predefined values in drop down. Now on the right side you have the predefined values, right? So you can select number series under predefined. You can say display 1 to 10 with a step of 1 as listed values. So what will happen is over here it will show 1 to 10. Right? Or I can say predefined values with scroll. Instead of drop down, it will be a scroll. So it will be like user can scroll it. Increase, decrease the number. Read only, user won't be able to select it. Now along with this, enable edit expression dialog box, it is there. So use the scroll. Sound on illegal entry, right? If it is there, suppose I update, I've told 1 to 10, right? It is not, and it is giving me a sound on illegal entry. You can also put error message. Please enter 1 to 10, right? Suppose I enter 34. It says please enter 1 to 10. So you can give out an error message too. So this way you can control the input box for input variables. The number, font, layout, caption remains the same thing, however you want to. Along with the same variable thought process, the other method to input value is a slider object. Okay. So a slider object can be two methods. One, it can be used as a selection parameter within the application for a particular field, or you can use it as an input value to a variable, but the values will be predefined. For example, over here I will select territory ID. Okay. It will list down the territory ID 1 to 10 over here. Now user can go ahead and make selection based on what he wants to do. So you can select 4. See, territory 4 is getting selected. 5, territory 5 is getting selected. That way user can use an existing field and do it. Otherwise, you can use a variable and pass the value. Now, how do you pass the value is you will have to create a scale. Now that scale is created over here, minimum value, max value. So update 0 to 1, 0 to 10, static step of 1. So the scale will be created, right? The scale will be created over here, 1 to 10. Where as you move the cursor, the value of the variable is changing. Now what happens is, variable is a global variable. It is wherever you use the variable or wherever you change the value for the variable will be 1. That's one of the reasons that over here in this input box that you're seeing, right, the value is displayed, whatever value is for that variable. So the current value will be displayed. Suppose I change it to 9, so that will change it to 9. Right. So that's how I can input value. So I can take in user inputs two methods. One is input box, another is slider object. I can use multi-value. So here if I use this multi-value and say last number as my second value, first number, last number. So I will increase it to 100 with a static step of 5. Right. Now the slider is going to give me something like this. It's going to give me its two ends. So I can use the resize it. So 20 to 25. First is 20, second variable 25. Right. 20 to 60. Or I can move this entire size of this cursor like this selection. 0 to 40, 5 to 10, 15. I can do it this way. And the presentation is just how you want to look at it. The color, the background, the scroll, color, everything. Otherwise, I don't think so there is any other option, any other major thing. So that's the slider. Now, with the slider, there is other option for called calendar, and there's a multi-value select for within a field. So that probably I'll do it tomorrow. So what I would suggest is go ahead and practice these things, and yeah, layouting objects might look simple, but what I would suggest is look at them, how you can place them in your application and how you can use them. selection that enable condition, hide and show. So also look at how you can work out with this layout, right? Always, so play with this for some time with all the other objects, always and conditional, so that you hide or unhide conditionally. Tomorrow we'll see a couple of more objects, and we'll see if you can do the expression editor to demonstrate calculation and all. And over the weekend you can practice those expression editor. Alright then, with this I would, yeah, I think today we had a short class, so I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Alright, thanks, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.